pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'd like to call the Milton Planning Commission of March 23rd to order. I think without all the applicants and everything, we'll just skip right into the agenda. I don't know if there's any comments on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we move item 6A, the presentation of the Comprehensive Plan 2040 Short-Term Work Program, for the text amendments.
Okay. Second.
Second.
Okay.
Second, I'm sorry.
Stephanie.
Stephanie. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. So now the action minutes, approval of the action minutes, or public comment. We have no public comment. So let's just confirm that. And then the approval of the action minutes. Robin, thank you for getting those out to us the other day. Any discussion, any comments on the action minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the action minutes of February 24th.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay. Yes. So I guess we jump right to 6A, thanks to Judy's motion to present the Comprehensive Land Use Plan 2040 Short-Term Work Program Project Plan and Schedule. Jackie, thank you.
Commissioners, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, good evening. I'm Jackie Lim, Planner 1 from Community Development. So as promised last month, I know we told you about how we're going to approach the Comprehensive Plan Short-Term Work Program. As you may know, it's a very complex project. So tonight, that's what our intent is, to share with you how we're going to attack that as an individual project and as a whole. So just to clarify, the purpose of the presentation is to, like I said, present what our approach has been to managing the short-term work program and inform Planning Commission of the progress and development in the last, I guess, few months. So just to refresh our memory, just put out here a short definition of what is a comprehensive plan. I know you've heard it's a living, breathing document. It's actually a planning document that sets a roadmap, or what we call a blueprint for Milton, which affirms our vision, establishes new goals, policies, and maybe priorities. It also helps us guide the future development and growth of the city of Milton. And we've adopted our comprehensive plan last year, October 4, 2021, and this plan is updated every 5 years. The reason for that is we want to maintain our status as a qualified local government, which enables the city to be qualified for, funding like grants and loans and few others type of financial resources. So in this comprehensive plan, we have what we call the short-term work program. And as you know, there's actually 99 projects within this short-term work program. And it was driven by CPAC. As you remember, we sat here together last year and we list down what we think we wanted for Milton in the next 20 years, what type of projects. So the short-term work program it lists every initiative to be completed within the next 5 years. The matrix identifies the time frame, the cost, the funding sources, and of course, the team that will manage each of this project. There's 5 categories. We have the land use, placemaking and branding, sustainability, economic development, and transportation. So what's our process in tackling the program. We first determine which project to accomplish this year. That's the very first step. And we discuss goals, actionable items, and strategies. We want to clarify what's our expectation. And the next step to that is we assign a team leader to carry out the plan. Majority of our projects, we want to keep it in-house, so we want staff to lead. We will probably seek help of consultants, depending on what project is that. And then from then, we then establish what we call a work plan. And in our work plan, in your packet, there's different templates that we use. And one of them is the project scope statement, communication plan, risk matrix, the risk mitigation plan, timelines, and project schedule, which Michael will flesh out the meaning of each of this. And then once we have identified all of this, like we have a definite plan, we bring this in front of the Planning Commission for feedback, to solicit your input, and then eventually to the council, and just to seek for a green light that yes, go ahead, we do this project this year, stuff like that. And next to that process is, of course, we want to involve community. We want to involve the key stakeholders because it's kind of important. And that way we establish what we call transparency and accountability as well. And then we consistently monitor the progress. Me, Michael, community development, we're going to serve as the tracker of the different projects. So we want to make sure that we're still up to, we're on schedule and we hit our benchmarks, the different goals and for each of this project. And one of the template that I actually encourage the staff, the team members, the team leader, is to provide what we call a project status report, which will show deliverables and action items. And in a way, like for me reading it, okay, so I can tell that there's progress, there's development in each of this project. And then lastly, communicate progress to key stakeholders. So we come back, whether it's in a form of social media, just informing the public what's the status, what's the development, have we accomplished this project or not, things like that. So this year, actually, we did accomplish or completed some of these projects. In the yellow highlights, it signifies that it's a completed task or project, like the CUP. We've done that. We have the green communities. We're now silver. We have a silver status. And of course, I think in December, we did the stormwater ordinance, so we update all of that. So that has been captured. We completed it. And which is for us, it's, okay, we're making progress. And the ones in the white highlights are just projects under the land use category that are currently underway. But we are in the early stage where we conduct our research, do our studies, and Michael will talk us more about that. He's actually doing 2 projects this year. So, all right, and we'll do the question after Michael's presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, board members. My name is Michael Cardiman, Planner 2. It's a pleasure to finally meet you all. I'm going to take you through an overview of what the scope entails for the project scope. One of the most important aspects of the project scope is getting feedback from the public, being transparent. We want to have ideas from stakeholders, board members, and we want to get the message out there that we want some feedback. Whether that's having a charrette, advertising on the website, we're really kind of hitting the ground running on what sort of ideas we're looking at to kind of reach out to everyone involved. So the project scope is the following. Project purpose, the key reasons for the project. Description, the who, what, and when on key deliverables. Desired results, A prioritized list of specific measurable deliverables. For example, I'm the team lead for flag lot research. One of the deliverables on flag lots is creating additional restrictions on Milton's 8 unique character areas. It's measurable, it's something, it's a goal. Exclusions, items of scope. Communication needs, who, what, and how often. Acceptance criteria, who needs to sign off on what and how they will sign off. That goes from the stakeholders, that's Planning Commission, that's Mayor and Council, that's Bobby Shemmy, the Community Development Director. We have check marks on people that we want to take our research in front and get feedback back from them. And constraints, restrictions, or limitations on the project. Risk matrix is based on 2 intersecting factors: the probability that a risk even will occur and the potential impact. Depending on the likelihood and severity, risk can be categorized as high, low, or moderate. Analyzing this will allow staff to develop an appropriate mitigation strategy. Overall, we are at the beginning stages of what we would describe as a research stage. And we just want you guys to know that this is just the first big step of a long process. And we really want to hear feedback from you once we get to that point. And we look forward to going through this process with you. Any questions for staff?
Thank you. Questions, anyone?
I have one. The list of projects you gave us is the one from the comprehensive plan, as was stated in the at the outset. In the city council meeting on the 4th of October of last year, and again on the 11th of October of last year, our city manager said that in response to questions about priorities, how are you going to prioritize your projects? He said he was going to be taking both this list as well as the list of activities from the strategic plan and integrate them and provide city council and of course by extension the public with a set of priorities for the combined list. This list doesn't do that, I don't believe.
Well, we learned that some of the projects in the comprehensive plan overlap or crossover with the other city plans like the strategic plan, Milton prioritization plan. So in those projects, what we do is we sit down as a group and we're gonna work on it as a one project. So in other words,
I understand.
Yeah.
I think I understand, but what I was looking at is trying to figure out what's on your plate.
okay.
And so this is just a partial list. It doesn't capture those things that
Yes.
are, it does capture it?
It doesn't capture.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it doesn't. So this is an understatement of the work you have on your plate, in other words.
This is the CPAC.
Just CPAC.
Yeah, that's just CPAC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are other things that you'd need to integrate into this from this. Have you developed your priorities yet as to which ones between strategic plan and comprehensive plan that you'll be attacking?
So the city manager has, I'm Bob Buscemi, city manager has put together a comprehensive combined program showing both strat plan and comp plan items. And he hasn't rolled it out yet. We pretty much know what we're doing. I think he's just fine tuning the balance of them
Okay.
before he rolls it out. I think he's going to get it out by the end of the month. But it is the combined. I think that's what you're looking for.
That's,
That
yeah.
combined list, yeah.
So does that mean after he does this, that this document here would be
It'll be
augmented?
integrated into it, because
Okay.
like Jackie was saying, some of the items might overlap. But I think, what we're really doing as a group, the total staff, and all the departments, is we're combining everything, and then we're looking at how we're going to distribute all that work and how we're going to overlap it, so that this way, we have good teams. So some of the teams that we're assembling could be cross-department.
Right, right.
And that's the key here, is
Okay.
that we're not just doing it on our department, where like I'm working with Public Works on several projects, and we're starting to say, okay, we're going to share staff, we're going to share the project. Same thing with parks. So we're really one city, one staff. That's how he's looking at it. And we're all helping each other with different talents that we all have on board. And we're saying, okay, if you have this talent, you can inject in there. So we're sort of assembling teams within and not really looking at departments
Good.
anymore.
Because this list is the all singing, all dancing list.
Yeah.
Some of it doesn't belong in your department. And that was going to be my next question
And
about how you're.
that's why we have communications involved, we have parks involved, Public Works. So we're really almost like working within departments as if they don't exist. As far as he's concerned, we're sitting down together and everybody's saying, okay, we have some talent here. Like on branding. Branding is definitely crossing between communications and comm dev. There's an architectural component to branding. There's a communication component to branding. So instead of looking at it as one department, but we will be assigning one individual to be the lead. So
For a
what
given
Jackie was trying to say.
project.
So every single project, there will be one sole person who's responsible to oversee the project, to track the project, and keep feeding Jackie and Michael information on what their status is. Everybody else is going to be support. So the way Steve has set it up is you'll see that there's always an identifiable person who will be the responsible party, so to speak, so that they're the ones who really take the accountability for it.
So I expect that you, as in your capacity, are responsible for everything that rolls up under community development. Who is looking at the program, if you will, of all the projects together? Who's the person at the top who's leading this?
Well, I mean, the city manager always looks at the totality of it, but as far as tracking all the projects, Jackie's been tasked with just monitoring and tracking the whole matrix of all these projects to say, okay, is everybody feeding us information on time? What do we need to do? If we have a public charrette, should we do it for multiple projects so we get the community together at once? Do we have to do them individually? She'll be tracking all of those project programs.
So you have that whole enchilada.
Yeah. Yeah, she's got the whole enchilada. And it's
Okay.
pretty interactive. It's actually a really neat program she set up, and it's very interactive, and she could track and show exactly what we're doing. And yes, not everything is in 1 year, but there's a lot initiated in 2022.
Okay.
I keep looking at it. There's a lot in 2022.
Yeah, there is.
But of course, it's initiating in 2022 because we are starting all of these programs at once. And each project, so to speak, I call them a project, each item is going to have project management software that people aren't putting in. So that's what Micah was trying to show you. So in other words, it will say, what's the identifiable purpose? What are we really trying to achieve? Who are the key stakeholders?
Right.
How do we remove risk or identify risk or risk mitigation for each one of these? So each one of these, how do we measure success? When do we get it in front of the council? Does it need a text amendment? How much community involvement is there? So all of before we start doing all of these, I'm making everybody fill out these forms so that we can really sit down and say, okay, we haven't missed anybody that we need to say as a stakeholder list. When we did the comp plan, at the very last minute, somebody came from Owner Mill Road and said, oh, by the way, did you miss me? And we said, no, we really didn't miss you, but people ask. So identifying everybody that we can is super important. The early work in project management, I think, yields a much better result at the end because we have a roadmap of what we want, including a sub-schedule for each project, so you can kind of see how we're tracking, if things slow down, why did they slow down, what's happening with it, and then how often do we bring it to you all for review? That's all going to be injected in there with the dates of your meetings and trying to meet these kind of key milestones.
Well, I'm glad you're putting into place a foundation because there's an old
It is a
adage.
foundation, and the
Go
nice
slow to
part,
go fast.
Ron, is it's going to be the same project management tracking for every single project. So
Which
it's easily identifiable. It's easily anybody can pick it up and say, okay, I can compare one project to the other.
Bob, you mentioned a few minutes ago that you have a software package that's doing this. Which software package was
I don't know the
selected?
name of it. It's Stacy developed it. And
Oh,
she's using
it's
it.
Stacy Ware.
It's Stacy Ware. It really is. Stacy kind of put it together for some other projects. And I said, gee, Stacy, if we're using that template for all your other projects, let's start using it so that this way we don't keep injecting new templates for management to keep reviewing. They can just see every project, even projects before this, with the same template. So we keep the same system and it's comparable.
So for a given project then that has, let's say, you have 10 steps in it.
Yep.
Will it list all 10 steps? The
Yes.
Stacy Ware will list 10 steps?
Yeah.
Will it give you start dates?
Yep.
End dates?
Yep.
That means the projected end date as opposed to the actual end date?
Yep. Yes.
And so you'll be able to track whether you're on schedule or off schedule?
In fact, this morning, when Jackie and I met with her, we even discussed a component that we noticed was missing in the whole thing because we kind of studying it. We said, geez, we need the budget, the cost. Does this have an impact financially to the city? What is it going to cost us to even put it together? So we're really we injected that this morning and we said, geez, that needs to be part of this tracking mechanism. And if there's no cost, we could put no cost, but some of these items will have some impact financially to the city one way or the other.
I might suggest, since we're on this point,
Yeah.
I might suggest in your project status report, you have a deliverable, which I guess would be one of those 10 steps in this hypothetical thing. And you have on target, at risk, or in danger.
Yes.
Sounds scary. But the on target is on target on what target?
In other words, if we said we're going to accomplish this particular task on Friday and we accomplish it, then that means that is on target.
Okay.
But if something like, all right, this may take a little like 2 weeks, it's probably in danger,
Okay.
It really depends on the end date.
Okay.
If we identify an end date, we will be able to determine what task is at risk, in danger, or on point.
Okay. Okay. I think it just my experience is that deliverable dates are useful because they focus the mind on exactly when that's going to be
Yes.
and how much time and how much slack you've got in there. But you've come a long way with what you have here. So
And it's good to have something like in front of you, to keep you focused. Okay, here are the things that, I have to do for this week and this week,
and
keep us all on track.
And to the extent that you're the center post here for not only Bob's work, but for the work of all the other projects that are being done here, it gives you an opportunity to see what's coming on your plate in a
Correct.
given week so you can get ahead of things and be more proactive in
Yes.
your management of it. You've have a daunting task, by the way. And so my best wishes for this process.
And
I'm
just
sorry,
so
I've
you know,
been-
Ron,
I've
we
been,
have preset meetings with the city manager where we're going through on a monthly basis, where we sit down and every month we have to give him an update of exactly what we've accomplished, where we are. And that's why I want all this tracking software to be identical. So he sort of looks at it as a dashboard. He could see the dashboard and he could say, okay, where are we from a dashboard standpoint? Like an overall view.
in your dashboard, use the colors red, yellow, and green because they
Yes.
tend
Yeah,
to
this way he
tend
knows right away
tend to
where
stand
we
out.
are, and anything that's in yellow or red, we can pull it up and say, okay,
Yeah.
what's happening with that particular project? Schedules will include critical paths, they'll include float, so that, we know that, all right, you have 2 weeks, but if you really look at the schedule on a CPM, you might have another week and a half of float. So
Okay.
it's not going to impact the early start, late start, early finish, late finish.
So
We'll be going through the
Stacy
whole
Ware
thing.
can do that?
Yeah, well, no, that's a little bit of Bob Ware.
Oh, that's Bob Ware. Okay. Okay.
But we'll
I was going to say, she's going to
She
be
gave
going
me
to
the-
Silicon
she
Valley
gave me
any
the
day
overall
now.
Template. The CPM network scheduling is, I just kind of do that.
Okay.
But we'll be
Okay.
doing that for every project, so everybody really understands not only the tasks, but which one's really or truly on a critical path in order to achieve the goals we're looking for.
The rhythm of review that you establish is really going to be key in driving your success on these projects. Because if you're shy and she's not shy, is she?
She's not shy. I was just
Okay,
gonna tell you, don't worry about
just
it.
the way you looked
Jackie
at her, I
knows
knew
how
she
to-
wasn't shy.
She knows how to contact everyone.
but people will take advantage because they have other things on their plate. So you're going to have to be very assertive in getting people to meet their commitments, because that's what they're going to be giving you, commitments, which brings us around to resource allocation. This takes resources. So this is one big pile of junk you've got to get through. But over here, you've got your day jobs. So in your planning, how are you trying to assess your resource limitations?
Okay, so first, I look at it as what I call our core function. So our core function is, and I stress this every day with staff, to make sure you maximize your core, what your job identification is.
That's the day job.
Doing plan review, site plan review, specifically water management review, or something like that. You have to make sure that you stay up on your reviews, because we are really ahead on reviews. We've actually implemented same day reviews. We're doing a lot. We implemented a planner of the day to make sure it's one planner per day, per week. So it's like I have 5 planners.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody takes a Monday, somebody takes a Tuesday. So when people calling in, they just deal with that planner for the day. They take down your information, what your question is, whether it's email, phone, or you're coming into the office and in-person kind of visit. We sit down, we track all the information that they're looking for, right? Then we take all their contact information. The planner of the day is then responsible to find the answers, respond first, if it's an email, to respond to the particular applicant or person asking the question, just to let them know that we're in receipt, and then to find the answers, and then go back and actually resolve that issue. And it might take 3-4 days to get them back, but at least when people call up, it's so successful. People are calling up now saying, I'm not just getting bumped. It's like it goes to Rob, and no, it goes to Sandra, no, it's going to somebody else. It just goes to the planner of the day. So you could all try it. If you have a question, all you do is call up, or email the planner of the day, and you'll see how nice it is. They'll respond to you and say, yes, we're in receipt of your request. We'll get back to you, and they'll find the answer, and then they'll respond. So that this way, because in the past, when you talk about roles and responsibilities, people were getting interrupted. They didn't know, they get stopped. Oh, can you come up to the front window? Oh, wait, it's not mine, it's somebody else's. And that's not a way to really produce a high-performing team. So this way we have an allocation for that. Now, every project that we do on these, we have 2 projects per planner. And the way we assign those to the planner is very important. So what I do is I look at what's the ability of the planner, what's their background, what's their expertise in, what are they doing? And then everybody that works has a cross-training backup. So as you can see tonight, we have Jackie here, cross-training backup, Michael. We have Robin here, cross-training backup, Tracy. So there's always somebody in staff. Staff is never doing anything alone anymore. They're doing things in pairs, teams. They're cross-training between each person. So maybe today Jackie's working with Michael. Tomorrow Jackie could be working with Emily on the GIS program.
Is this just within your department, or is this across the city?
It's right now. I'd say it's in my department, but I think other departments are looking at it that way.
So you're the epicenter.
Yeah, I think they're all starting to work. I mean, we are cross-training with, like I'm cross-training with Sarah. So with Sarah Leaders, me and her are working together on different projects. Then I have Jerry working with Josh or Ken Kagi over in Public Works. So in a sense, what we've done is we've broken down all the silos, all the walls. It's one city, one department, and we have professionalism and skill sets throughout the city, and we might as well use them all. And it's kind of nice because people are cross-training, they're working. Jerry and Josh are doing all the infrastructure inspections every Friday. They have to get through hundreds of them by the end of the year, and they're working together as a team. So they go out as a team on Fridays. Sandra, our arborist, is now going out with Jerry, doing pre-construction meetings, making sure people put up tree save, site fence. So the whole department structure has changed. And I can assure everybody here that we are producing a high-performing team.
That's great.
In the
But
city.
back to my question.
Yeah.
You were talking about the people doing their day job.
Mhm.
And then have you identified how much money, how much time they have to allocate to these projects?
Mhm.
So, okay, so that's already involved
That's all
embedded in
part
the
of-
plans that
it's all
you've
part of
completed
management.
today.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
we don't overwhelm anyone. We keep them working. If I see somebody falling behind, we get them more resource, whether it's additional staff to help them, additional training. If they're falling behind on something, maybe it's because they're not trained, maybe they don't have the tool. So when Jerry said, oh, I want to go out and do infrastructure inspections, I said, gee, Jerry, this is great. Let's do a few of them. Then he came back and said, Bob, I really need a pole camera in order to do these more efficiently and effectively. I said, okay, let's go ahead and do it. So we went out and purchased them a pole camera. Now, we were hiring consultants to do all that work, outside consultants. And we said, no, we have the in-house expertise to do it. So, all right, maybe we need a tool to do it. So we purchased the tools. Steve approved us to purchase the tools. Steve gives us all the tools we need and all the time we need to do it correctly and effectively. And I will say that's one great asset. Steve is just awesome. He comes down regularly, checks up on us, makes sure everybody's still keeping a great quality of life. People are happy. It's just really it's a good
Sounds like he
program.
brings donuts.
I get tired just thinking of it. But I will tell you, we live, sleep, and eat it. Look, every staff member, look at all the staff members that stay late. We were here late Monday night. We're here late tonight. We just keep that. We have such a dedicated staff here at the city. I've been here many years, and Robin too. And I will tell you, everybody's really, they love their jobs. They're really dedicated in what they do, and I'm proud of it. We're really proud of our staff. I think everybody's happy here. And wait till you see what we achieve on all of these programs. We used to farm these things out with consultants, and the council said we don't want to do a lot of outside consultants. I have the expertise in-house. And I think between that and the cross-training, you're going to see some really great results coming out of this. It's really, really proud of who we are and how we produce work. We really have a good command on what the city's needs are, what the council wants, what you all want. And I really seriously will say here tonight that I really appreciate everybody's input. This planning commission is just awesome. I know Judy's been emailing me regularly on things and stuff, and I really appreciate it. I think it's really great. It shows that we're really comprehensively looking at things together. People are checking stuff, because we are going through quick and looking at stuff. And sometimes it's nice. People really kind of give me great feedback, and then we learn from that. And lessons learned, we put programs in place to correct things and keep moving. It's that you just keep getting better and better as you keep going down the line. We keep learning, and that's the secret, right? From management is to just keep figuring out what you're doing wrong. If you're doing anything, or how we can do it better. How can we report on it better? We're doing SOPs for every project now, every individual. So every process we do, we have created an SOP, a standard operating procedure, so that we can define what it is we're doing and how to do it more effectively. Are we doing it correctly? Are we giving staff the correct training that we need to give them? Are we cross-training staff? Are we helping people? So we just got JC, and she's working up in the front now at REMA, and they're both cross-training each other, and they're both going to sit for the ICC exam shortly and take that exam to get the certification. So it's kind of, no one person's doing anything alone anymore. There's always a backup, so you feel like you have somebody to help you out. Anyway, sorry, I could talk all night. I don't want to talk all night, but I'm proud of my staff.
Judy?
Kind of a two-part question. This is a long list of important items. Some of them look like they are somewhat listed twice, depending on the responsibility. So obviously some codependencies there. And it looks like there has been some attempts to do sub-bullets around larger. But my real question is, has the dependencies between major line items been identified? So, line item number 6 needs to be finished before line item 10 can start. So get the dependencies identified. So the dependencies have been
Yes,
identified? Okay.
we've identified that not only with the comp plan, but with the strat plan. So I think what Jackie was trying to say is there is overlap on items between comp plan and strat plan. And so we sat down and said, well, what dependencies, what needs to be done prior to something else? That's part of the scheduling. But also, if there's overlap within the items, why not have the same person? I mean, why have two people working on the same thing differently, independently, when really those dependencies, not only individual dependencies that one's building on the other, but maybe there's two co-shared sort of processes or items of work that why not have one person look at that holistically together so that we have one school of thought on that and that we're not duplicating effort. Because we have 99 projects plus strat plan projects. There's a lot of work there.
Yeah.
And the only way, that's the reason why you're not seeing us come to you with all this work early. Just, we're doing some of it, but on the balance of them, I think we really needed to just pause, say, let's put a process in place to make sure we do this correctly. We only have one shot at it. I don't want to waste a year and then say, oh, geez, at the end of the year, hey, guys, sorry, we didn't get it done or we missed the mark. This way we can really knock it. Some of them, we still have some old consultants contracts that are still active. So Robin's resurrecting the whole UDC, which is coming forth. We actually had a consultant hired. We still had some funds left over that we stopped and saved, knowing that we'd use them in the future. So now we're re-engaging that consultant to help us go forward on the UDC. So it's almost like resurrecting that whole project. We had to go back and say, okay, where were we? What have we done in the interim? So she's putting that together now. So it's even when we have an outside consultant, we're bringing them in and kind of working those dependencies with them as well.
Right.
Yeah.
My second suggestion, given this is a long list of important items,
Okay.
and kind of based on 18 years of international consulting and project management, this is a long list.
Okay.
And you do have your staff that have day jobs that have urgent work that needs to get done and can carve out some time for this important work. But to help them feel a success, I would also suggest you look at prioritizing to say, these are our top 10 that we're going to focus on now. These are the top 10, maybe it's 15, I can give you a little more, but a priority list, and you work on getting that done, makes the staff feel like, hey, we got this done, we got this accomplished, makes people feel good about seeing progress. And then when number 10 goes off the list, you can add number 16, so you always have a working list of that, rather than trying to tackle such a long list all at once, because you may end up having too much to manage.
Well, I agree. No, these are great comments.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well, because I've spent many years in management consulting, having to deal with big programs. But I would agree with that. And I think from communication perspective, that helps the communication team better, communicate with boards and council and community, just to kind of give me the big, give me the top 10, or people can digest that and go, oh, I get it. They see progress. If they see like a huge list, they just get scared and run the other way. One question though I did have, maybe question, comment, is you were talking about there's a strategic plan, then there's comprehensive plan. So you're trying to, merge these together so that it's easier to manage, which is a great idea. But it would be helpful to understand just paper trail, like, okay, this came from comprehensive plan, this was from strategic, because the comprehensive plan folks want to see what happened.
Yeah, no, we identified
and
several.
that, that's where we are on that stuff versus, plus I'm sure there's reporting to the state that has to be done, I would suspect, since that is a state function that you have to do. And then what, where strategic sits in. I mean, I think that would help everybody just from a tracking perspective, so we understand.
Yeah, right now, we're keeping them separate.
We're keeping separate.
We are keeping them separate. We're tracking them on one tracking spreadsheet.
Okay.
In year 2026 or 7, that's when we're provide the state a report.
Okay.
Projects that we have accomplished, projects,
Okay. Okay,
Yeah, so
great.
we'll be reporting regularly to the state. And you all were part of it, or most of you were part of that comp plan development in one way or the other. And a lot of my staff was involved during that comp plan process as well. And then Steve engaged us all very much so in the development of the strategic plan. So he says, all right, this is where I think we need to be, but we all gave feedback and started helping him write stuff and putting it together. I mean, he was lead for sure. You know, he's city manager. He took a big lead on that and did a great job with it. I got to say, he's done a fabulous job with that whole strategic plan, a lot of work. But he did engage us all, which was really nice because we're all part of it and we know what it is. So while we're working on these, I think it's nice because like Jackie was sitting through the whole comp plan, she heard what everybody was saying, why we were even making it a work item. So it kind of helps, you know. It's not like we're looking at these things cold. This is just the next iteration of work, I think, from that comp plan. I don't look at it as we're starting all over. I think it's just a progression to the next level of development of those items. That's why I look at it. I think it's going to be, it's going to work out nice. Look, we already hit silver. We got rid of the CUPs. We did a lot of things that were already on that plan. You could see the numbers here. We did all the Georgia stormwater already. We got through that. We've done quite a bit of numbers here that really took us a lot. And the reasons why we did these first is because they were all time sensitive. So I had to get the stormwater work done before December 31st. So I said that was priority. Like Judy was saying, on my priority list, I needed to get that done. I had a deadline to get from bronze to silver, and now we have 2 years to go if we'd like to go to gold, which we're shooting for. So, but if I didn't meet those deadline dates, we would have lost them totally for 2 years. So what I did was, like Judy had suggested, we initially said, do we have any deadlines that we have to meet before we start losing the criteria of these work items? I identified those. We concentrated on those. The balance of these items don't really have any like state or local deadlines that I have to meet in order to comply with some other regulation. So that's why we stopped at this point with pausing, and we're putting all the plans together. So like Judy said, there's a lot of them, and we're trying to prioritize them, put them as a plan. Everybody's suggestions are great. I really appreciate the feedback.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
When will you be back to share with us, your list of accomplishments and things that you're working on?
Yeah, no problem. I think I had that down as, hold on, June 2027.
June 2027.
Was that okay? I had a look in the book. Let me make sure I had that date just right for you. No, we'll be.
We're open for suggestions. If you want us to come here each month, every planning commission, just to give you like an update of the projects, the status of the project, we can do that as well.
What do you think?
I think that'd be helpful. I mean, some months are probably going to be better than others. It'll be a longer report, but I think it'd be very helpful
Okay.
for us. And again, I just have 3 quick things. One is that whole prioritization. I think for transparency, it'd be nice to either be part of that or understand how that works, and so that everybody understands why this project has moved up or this one down. 99, I agree with Judy and Laura. How do you manage 99 projects? So if we can help, if we can help prioritize or at least understand that process more, I think that'd be helpful. Number 2, I do want to second what you said about the staff. I know you guys work long hours. You're doing a great job. That's very appreciated. By me by us, I think I can speak for all of us as planning commission, but also as citizens. And number 3, I think you touched on it too. I'd like to know how can we help? Can we help you prioritize? What role can the planning commission more proactively take to help in this process? So keep that in mind as you're going through things. If there's things we can do, let us know.
And the beauty of it is, like for me, I don't have a 10-year background in project management. So for someone with less than 1 year, in task to do, to track and to manage each of these projects, it's of course very complex, very intimidating. But I'm so glad I've worked like with Bob, with Steve, with the planning commission, that would give me direction. So if I come across you know, or I need help. You know?
Careful what you
Yeah.
ask for. As we said, we've got some experts in that.
I
area.
know.
You
That's why we're
and
very
and that's
lucky we
great.
have
Yeah, so
project
leverage us,
managers.
leverage us too, because, I think we've all got a lot of diverse backgrounds and bring knowledge and history and tips. So,
Yes.
let us know, we can help.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
When you do
Appreciate
come,
that.
when you do come back, just if you give it in this sort of a format,
Okay.
show us your end date. Okay? Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good idea, right?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Completed, we'll show the end date.
Again, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, on to the text amendments.
Yes, actually, before I start the text amendments, I'll just go off wall with a few other housekeeping items, I
Okay.
guess. I was trying to look for the right word. I just sent you all email regarding some spring training that the Atlanta Regional Commission, they're restarting their planning, not just commissioners, but all different boards training. It's going to be a hybrid system over about 4 to 6 weeks, it looked like from the calendar. So 2 of the meetings are online and 2 of them are in person. So I just sent you that email about a half hour ago. So you can read through that. Let me know if you're interested in participating. So we have money for training.
And
As well.
those, I'd strongly, having gone through it, I'd strongly suggest it, but also is that going to be very similar to what's been done in the past if you've gone? say, like, 3
Probably,
years? So,
yeah,
okay.
you can look through it,
Okay.
probably more appropriate for our newer members. I mean, so that's one item. It was asked of me about the planning commissioner's payment. So I gave you last night just the email with all the materials, and then you have hard copies if you want to take them home. So basically, yes, in the ordinance it does shall be paid, but there's also a system that if you don't want to be paid, you can sign a waiver not to be paid. If you do so choose to be paid, then just work through all the paperwork. And if you have any questions, I'm sure I don't know the answer, but I can ask HR. So that's not my hat, but anyway, any questions about that?
Oh, just one more with regard to liability, if you can confirm whether we're
Right,
covered or
so
not.
there was a question, Paul, about, I think something come out of Brookhaven where some members of the board were sued, like personally, not just, when there's a situation concerning a case.
And basically, we want to make sure that there is no way that someone can come back against us. We want to be shielded by the city's liability insurance.
I can tell you there's a statutory liability protection for operating anything as in your role as an officer on this member of this council. And I'll be honest, I haven't dealt with the specific insurance coverage issues. I deal with zoning and land use type issues, and say you may get sued technically in your individual capacities because the courts have said in order to file a declaratory judgment, you need to name the individual officers, and that typically would apply to the planning director. That's what it was intended to be, but plaintiffs and developers councils read that to name anybody that has an individual name in their individual capacity, including that won't be individual liability for damages or anything of that nature against any of y'all. And we will, and there's the legislature also passed a rule which says that's improper to do that now. It may happen. We will file a motion to dismiss anything that happens along those lines to get you out based on the statute. Actually, it's constitutional that they have to name the city.
Paul, last week I read in the AJC that Brookhaven had lost a suit. They were being sued by a developer. Brookhaven, and their allegation was that Brookhaven, the mayor, and the city manager had conspired together to, deep six this project. The city manager and the mayor both had to pay individually $200,000. They had $200,000 judgments, and the city of Brookhaven had a much larger dollar amount. So to the extent that they're going to be Is it to the extent that that would apply to me, for instance?
Sure.
I
and-
wouldn't care to cut the $200,000 check.
Right,
So,
and that directly goes to the statutory provision which says your participation as a member of a government board or council, there is a statutory official immunity for any of the actions you take in your capacity as a member of this board, any decisions you make as a member of this board. Now, if you go out and make promises or take actions outside of your capacity of being on this council, planning commission, I'm not speaking to those sort of instances, but anything related to your role here as on the planning commission would be covered under that statutory protection.
okay, statutory protection is 0, right?
Yeah, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So how did that happen? Out of curiosity, because I thought I did read that and I went, huh? So
Yeah, I'm just catching the distinction here.
How did they
He
get
was talking
fined?
about commissions like this as opposed to the mayor and
Yes,
the-
the protection I'm speaking of is specifically, it mentions members of boards or commissions in acting in that capacity. It's an official immunity, statutory protection. Now,
Okay.
the individuals in just, in their capacity as a planning director or city manager, those aren't what they're speaking of. So, I mean, there may be other immunities that may be involved, that there are separate constitutional official immunities and there's legislative immunities that wouldn't apply to them. And there's a whole series of immunities that may or may not apply. And I don't know the details of that particular case to say why they did or did not apply in that particular case. Whether they were raised, I assume anybody that would have tried to raise them if they were defending them. But I don't know the details of that case.
Maybe this is one of the few times I'm happy we're a recommending body.
Right.
That too, certainly. Yeah, usually, theoretically, you shouldn't be named because you're not making the final decisions.
Or the Board of Zoning Appeals or City Council. so,
Yes.
yeah. Okay, any other
All right.
questions about that? Okay, so I want to, Juan, can you throw up the screen, please? So I just wanted to tell you that our our city clerk is working feverishly to kind of upgrade our systems across the board as far as agendas, packets, minutes, just the organization of it through the entity of MuniCode. Is basically MuniCode has a special software. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. Just even now, I want to show you where you can go. It's not totally populated yet, but if you're looking for different meetings, whether it's city council, DRB, planning commission, here's the date of the meeting, here's the agenda, here's the packet, and then once the minutes are uploaded, and then you can find the video there. So it's all together.
That's nice.
And then I think it's a great tool instead of going to the calendar and looking for this or looking for that.
Big improvement.
So we're getting trained on that. So the next couple months, you'll see even the formatting of our agendas and packets may change a little bit, but it'll all be there. So like if some reason you missed the packet or whatever, you can just go there and look for it, or if you need to access it electronically. Also, I'm very excited about this because half the time I can't hear things or see things, is that eventually y'all are going to have computers in front of you and that you'll be able to vote, and it's all going to be electronic, and the votes are going to be thrown up on the screens once you vote. So each of your names will be on it. So for approval, denial, withdrawal, whatever, abstain. So I'm really excited about that. So,
No,
you can say I'm really excited about that. So, and then also just trying to get a read. I know, and I love paper copies, and maybe eventually going electronic completely and not having paper. So just keeping that in the back of your head. I know with site plans, it's always nice to have a full size. I really don't think we're going to totally get rid of paper, but it might be some hybrid version of that. So anyway, I just want to give you an update on that because we're really excited about that launch of this new system. So, okay, now we're,
Great, thank you.
any other housekeeping items that anybody have? Cool. Well, we'll go on to the next item, which is text amendment. I was hoping Anita could be here, but she had a conflict tonight, so she couldn't be here, but I feel like I'm more prepared to be able to speak to the text amendment and its context. And I did update it a bit from the discussions last week or last month about what you all discussed. So we can start with that. Also, I included a letter that was from Orkin and Associates that made suggestion, which I think was part of our discussion last month about publicly or privately owned. So from the very beginning, and then that's really what it is meant to be. So just some background. Again, you remember that this is a use that's in the form-based code, crabapple and Deerfield. And, you know, just, it still exists. It's not that it doesn't exist already. We're just trying to personalize it for Milton specifically and what our needs are for the outdoor auditorium. And so just to go over it again, means any non-publicly owned or operated property improved with an outdoor permanent structure used for outdoor performances and outdoor entertainment and intended to be used for the gathering of people for public or private assembly. And this is in coordination somewhat with the event special indoor outdoor, where we will be taking it out of the Chapter 64, which is zoning, and putting it into Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs, which is Chapter 34. And there was a group of people, staff people, who've been working on it for probably last year or so. And that is still under review by the city attorney. And that's why it's really not under y'all's purview, but I will say that the reasoning of needing this more specific definition is under the standards and numbers of events, privately owned outdoor auditorium may have a maximum of 12 special event permits issued per calendar year. Events held anywhere other than a privately owned outdoor auditorium may have a maximum of 2 special event permits issued per calendar year per location. And there shall be no limitation on city-hosted or city-sponsored events, and the city is exempt from numerical limitations. So that was the need to be more specific about an outdoor auditorium being a privately owned entity or piece of property. So anyway, I'm open to whatever other suggestions or input or questions you may have.
So what, I maybe I heard this wrong. I was just trying to, you said the city would have the benefit of use, but it's privately owned. So I'm confused.
Well, it's not, I'm sorry, there's either privately owned outdoor auditoriums. So that's one category of events or standards. And then there's events held anywhere other than a privately owned outdoor auditorium may have a maximum of 2 special event permits. So like, let's say if Shannondale Farms had an event, so they could have 2 events. Usually it would be fundraising, so they need alcohol, so I need to do a special event. So they can have 2 per year. So that's not considered an outdoor auditorium, although it's a private piece of land, or anybody could, you know, if they're having the wedding at their property, they can apply for this special event. And then thirdly, they just stated that there shall be no limitation on city events. So we're not going to, you know, we have the ability as a city, you know, when we do Crabapple Fest, or we used to do the Mayor's Run, or other events, that doesn't we don't have to apply for our own permit.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Okay,
So
so
you're
it's
just
three
separating that
different-
out.
Categories. So.
And how did we, and what drove the 2 event limit?
I think it was, I mean, right now, we only have one outdoor auditorium. I think it was working with Orkin and Associates, trying to figure out, and there's certain thresholds that it becomes a special event. So when they have cornhole tournaments
Mhm.
every Thursday, that doesn't count toward their special event.
Okay.
That's just a private, I mean, it's an event on their property that doesn't exceed the thresholds that have been set out on this special
So
event
do we have a
ordinance.
definition of what a special event is defined
Yeah,
as?
yeah.
Can you-
So it's very long. Actually, what I'll do is I'll throw it up here.
Great.
Again, this is not in stone.
It's upside down.
Yeah.
Ah,
We passed the first test.
It starts out saying, a special event shall mean any event can be defined as any event that meets the qualifications set below. Term special event shall be any event that meets the definition set forth in A, 1 through 4, or B, 1. A, an event on city-owned property or at a private outdoor auditorium that meets the following criteria. The event is reasonably expected to cause or result in more than 100 people gathering at any one time. The event is reasonably expected to have a substantial impact on property and/or is reasonably expected to require substantial public services. And during the event, the property will not be used for its normal governmental public purpose and will be exclusively dedicated to the event. B, an event on privately owned property not otherwise regulated by section 34 blah, 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 that meets the following criteria. The event is reasonably expected to result in attendance of more than 100 people at any given time, and the event is reasonably expected to have a substantial impact on city-owned facilities to include traffic loading, parking, and right-of-way usage, and/or is reasonably expected to require the provision of substantial public services, or the event will charge an admission and/or property owner will generate revenue or gains from commercial sales. 2, special event does not include private parties on private property hosted and attended by the owner of the property that otherwise does not meet the qualifications outlined above. I'm just saying that. For purposes of this definition, a private party is a gathering on private property wherein each attendee has received a specific invitation and where the general public is not invited and may not attend. So that is the definition. It's a very long definition.
Is that existing or is that that's what's being considered?
Yeah, that's it hasn't been finalized yet. This is all a draft.
Mentioned 1 through 4 for A and B, but there are only 3 subpoints in each. To the extent that's a draft.
Right, yes. And this is like an early draft, so this is like a month old, so, but we can make that.
There's some other things too.
Yeah.
This one, yeah.
So Robin, are we okay to do clarification questions? Robin, for clarification, when I look at the privately owned green with its stage, clearly would fall under this definition.
Right.
One of the things I struggle is what was not intended to be included in this definition. For example, there's a certain restaurant that has a permanent structure, a deck, that they use for outdoor entertainment. Are they an outdoor auditorium, and do they need a use permit?
So are they in Deerfield or Crabapple?
Yes.
I mean, that's a good question.
Yeah, so,
mean,
yeah, or for example, a community in Deerfield or Crabapple has a gazebo. And it's normally used for, it's a community gazebo owned by the HOA, normally just used for people to sit and get some shade from the playground. Now, if they have a wedding there, that sounds like it falls under GU or privately owned, private property, specifically done. But if they then take that same gazebo and want to have a band and invite anybody that wants to come or sell tickets, now they're an outdoor auditorium? So is it the use that defines the outdoor auditorium?
I think it's here. I think the important part that Anita was saying is, I think it's the location and it is the, if there's it's a physical permanent structure on it, which obviously a gazebo does that. If it was more than 2 times that they needed it, I mean, maybe they could fall under that. A year, if they exceeded, the 100 people and impacting the general public, all that, they could definitely do 2. They could, and if it's more than 2, if they felt like that it was, they could apply by warrant. I was just reviewing back again, if it's T3, T4, T5 or whatever, they can apply for a warrant to allow it to be a outdoor auditorium. So until they do that, technically it's not an outdoor auditorium.
So it's not the structure that defines it, it's the structure and the use.
Correct, yeah.
So you can have the structure, so that would be, I think what's important to help understand for the citizens and for staff is we did mean this to be the gazebo that then gets used to be a band concert every Friday night. We did not intend it to be the restaurant that has always had a guitar player on their deck every Friday night. Or we did intend it to be that. I'm not sure if you anticipated that the restaurant that for decades has had a guitar player on their permanent structure deck.
Well, I see that more as, it coming under, I mean, are the people coming to eat or are they coming to see the person in concert and to sing? And then also do they exceed the noise ordinance? Does it impact the public areas? Is it a private party in a sense that, it's a private entity having entertainment and it doesn't impact the associated or adjacent streets or other items that were listed? And then even on top of all this, they need to comply with the noise ordinance.
Yeah. For me, that is always the case. But our definition as you've written it is that to be used for the gathering of people for public or private assembly. So those people going to the restaurant would be a private assembly.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
So that's why the trouble with definitions is you always get into we didn't mean it to mean that. It's like, yeah, but it says that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to get clarification that you did or did not intend it to mean the restaurant that has somebody playing on their outdoor
I don't think
deck.
that's the intent. No.
Okay. And that might be something that's good to clarify and get on the record that it is not our intent for this to include.
Well, and then just like I said, and I had printed it out, but I forgot to bring it, is the use chart, and that you have to apply for a warrant. So
Unless it depends if it's Crabapple or Deerfield. One needs a warrant, the other has some by right.
You know what, I looked
Laura brought that
again
up
and
the
I think
that it wasn't consistent between Deerfield and Crabapple on rights and warrants as it applies.
Well, I think I might have, in my exhaustion last time, I might have looked at the wrong part, because I could swear tonight, when I pulled it up, they were pretty equitable. Outdoor is, okay, it was the number, it's warrant for Crabapple T4 open and T5, and then nothing in the lower categories. And then again, as I said before, we can look at this separately about if you want us to look at where it's permitted, where it's by warrant, or if it's allowed at all. So, and then in Deerfield, so it's by warrant and T4 open, T5 and wait, no. No, you're right. It's by outdoor, commercial amusement, indoor, outdoor. Yep, it's by right. I was looking at the wrong thing. So it's by right in T3 through T6. Yep.
Warrant in T2.
And a warrant in T2.
And-
So that's definitely we can look at. Changing that to warrants instead of by right, or whatever it is that we come up with that more satisfactory. So yeah. Okay, and then there was also the letter, which from Orkin Associates, that made some suggestions. I think they were more comfortable with the wording of privately owned. I think it's not as clunky as non-publicly owned. So.
That could be confusing.
Brought that up last
Okay.
time.
Paul, is there any difference there?
I'm not concerned with either one of them, so if.
I think I brought that up last time. too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we brought it up the last
Privately was,
time.
I
Yeah,
thought,
yeah.
more clear, but
In your definition before of events, I guess my question is, how many classes do we have? We have public, we have private, and we have non-public? Because otherwise, I don't know why we'd have the non-public in there either. We just have public and private. And in the definition, it did not have non-public, it had private.
Yeah, and that's something I'm going to talk to them about, because I don't think, in the definitions, when it talks about it speaks to outdoor, here it is. So outdoor auditorium shall mean this, it says outdoor auditorium under definition shall mean the same as set forth in chapter 64. So I don't think even in that chapter 34 in the Parks and Rec, I'm going to suggest to them to take out private, because I think it's a bit redundant, because it references outdoor auditorium in chapter 64 definition.
Well, you can help. How would changing from non-publicly owned to private owned, based upon the letter, how would that help them keep people off the bandstand? I'm not following that.
It's not about keeping that, it's allowing them to have additional numbers of an outdoor auditorium. If you are classified as an outdoor auditorium, then you can have up to 12 events a year.
But the way I read his whole third paragraph is, as non-publicly owned may lead to confusion, and we ask to be considered expanding or substituting with the wording privately owned. The reason for this request is people seem to be unaware that the green and stage are actually privately owned and operated. On several occasions, community members believe the green and the stage to be publicly owned and have made comments to the effect, you can't tell me what to do, I'm on public property. The proximity between Milton City Hall and Crabapple Market, the green and the stage seem to make this a common sense designation.
I agree with you. I don't think changing it from non-publicly to private changes anything about the concern that they have, which is people thinking it's public or private when it's.
It doesn't make a difference.
So this doesn't impact. That being said, I don't have a problem with changing it to private, and the clunkiness of it resonates with me as well. I don't have a problem if it's changed to
Yeah,
private
their
at all.
concern then needs, they need a sign
I was for private,
or.
yeah.
Well,
I
they
think it's
do
just
have,
clear.
I do believe they
Cleaner,
have signs,
clearer,
you
non-public.
know,
Then
right.
they need to
Especially
coordinate
with
up.
private
Well,
other
but that,
places.
yeah.
I mean.
I mean, I think it's just.
I mean,
what is
it's
better
like you got
understand
away. I
private,
mean,
okay.
if that's the problem, then you'll have to do something
It's
different
clear.
to
That's
not
what it's-
enable that. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly. That's what I had
that's-
some other.
if it's private.
Right.
I had a question too about, in this proposed definition, permanent structure. So, when you're saying it's permanent, what does that mean? Like if it's a stage that could be moved in and out of the area,
Then it's not permanent.
right? So when it's permanent, was there some sort of a permit, a building type of a permit or something
Right.
to actually?
So like this stage out here had a building permit that makes it a permanent structure, that it's attached to the land, that there's really no way to move it. You could only demo it. You wouldn't really move it.
Okay.
So,
And they had to get approved through the appropriate process and have a permit.
right.
Okay. And then the other,
Right.
and then also you had in here in the proposed definition, like means any non-publicly owned or operated property. But what was the intention of like operated property? Like, what does that mean? Does it mean it's operating in this type of a fashion anyway, like some sort of a business that's already?
I mean, I could see possibly if you had public land that's been a long-term lease by a private entity and that they have, events on that. I mean, we don't have that circumstance, but I guess one could think that that possibly could happen.
But they could do that potentially anyway with it being a, privately owned area, and they enter into whatever terms or contracts or leases or whatever down the road. I'm not, I don't know if that's necessary or not, right? Whether if it's just privately owned, improved property with an outdoor performance,
Right.
permanent structure, doesn't matter whether we don't need to have anything about operating or not.
I mean, I think in our circumstance, like I said, this basis came from other jurisdictions. So one could, I think there are other jurisdictions who, long-term lease to private entities to operate certain, they operate whatever, a carnival. I'm not, but you know what I mean? Maybe they operate some type of use that's actually the cities or municipalities. But I don't think in our situation we do that at all. And I don't foresee that happening.
Okay.
Where we would do a long-term lease for somebody that could do these kind of activities.
So Robin, I could foresee, for example, if the city had a performance stage gazebo in on public land, a small park, that it entered into a lease with an orchestra to come in every Friday and do a concert, that would then fall under publicly owned but privately operated the performance. But
Well,
are they
unless-
operating the property or are they operating the performance?
Well, I think if we did do that, I could more see that as a city-sponsored event on a city property, even if it was, the Milton Orchestra.
It would just
That's
depend
not
how
part
how
of the
lease,
city.
if the city leased it out and kind of said hands off, you operate it, then I think your
That's true.
example would be fairly accurate. That would be an example of what might happen. I think it doesn't sound like we do or have any intention to
Right.
do anything kind of like that at this point in time.
So I think like in Peachtree City, they have an amphitheater that was built by the city of Peachtree City, but I'm sure, well, I don't know. I'm assuming they don't operate it on day-to-day operations, but they have concerts and they have events probably almost every single weekend in the summertime. So, I mean, I could see something like that if we, kind of like what you were saying.
Yeah, I think there's a city in South Fulton where it's city property, the amphitheater is city property, but they did a long-term lease to a charity that operates it and runs concerts and performances out of there. So
It's a possibility. It's just, I don't see that on the horizon right now, but.
but we try to write laws for the long term so we don't have to change them.
Just leave it there. Any other suggestions other than changing non-publicly, change it to privately?
I mean, my suggestion is to take out the, or operated. That means any privately owned property. And then I would even consider shortening up the second sentence or second line to say used for outdoor entertainment. I don't know, performances and outdoor entertainment. I would say entertainment would just cover everything, just to kind of make it as short and concise as possible. So used for outdoor entertainment and intended to be used for the gathering of people for public or private assembly.
Does seem a bit redundant.
I mean, I don't
All
know
over
unless
again.
there's an actual difference between, performance and entertainment, but if there isn't really, just try to keep it as concise as possible.
All right, any other questions or comments? Didn't you want us to vote on this?
Yeah, so we have two different, so you have to vote on it twice, once for the crabapple and once for Deerfield.
Okay. Ready
It's
to vote?
RZ 2201 is the definition for crabapple and RZ 2202 for Deerfield.
Anybody feel like making a motion?
Sure. So I'll make the motion on the proposed definition for RZ 22-01 for outdoor auditorium. My proposed definition would be means any privately owned property improved with an outdoor permanent structure used for outdoor entertainment and intended to be used for the gathering of people for public or private assembly.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Discussion, any more discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
We have RZ 22-02.
Yep.
I'll make a motion for that RZ 22-02 for the proposed definition of outdoor auditorium to be means any privately owned property improved with an outdoor permanent structure used for outdoor entertainment and intended to be used for the gathering of people for public or private assembly.
Second.
Okay, Judy second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. All right. Any other new business? Anybody, anything he wants to bring up? Or if not, I'll certainly entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, so Sumit, Commissioner Sumit made the motion. Commissioner Judy seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. It's unanimous. And wait, we're getting out of here and it's light out?
I know.
What a concept. I love daylight
I'm
saving.
so happy.
Yeah.
Are we keeping these or leaving?
Yeah.
Are we keeping
Bob,
these?
Tracy, Robin, thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm taking.
All right.
Thank you, Sumit.
Thank you.